Hello and welcome to another edition of the AI Report. You're watching News 9, and first up, let's tell you all that happened in the world of artificial intelligence this week.
Nvidia's CFO said the chipmaker's deal to invest $100 billion in ChatGPT parent OpenAI isn't yet finalized. The partnership would tie two of the top heavyweights in the AI race. The deal proposal involves deploying at least 10 gigawatts of systems for OpenAI, enough to power over 8 million US homes. Anthropic, the AI startup backed by Google and Amazon, is preparing for an IPO as early as next year. That was according to a Financial Times report. It added the startup's negotiating a private funding round that could give it a valuation exceeding $300 billion. But an Anthropic spokesperson didn't confirm to Reuters when or even if it will go public. And Taiwan's tech-heavy economy is expected to grow at its fastest pace in 15 years as it rides the wave of demand for AI technology. That's according to the country's statistics office. It said GDP is expected to expand more than 7.3% this year, a jump from the near 4.5% pace predicted in August. However, it added US tariffs are likely to cloud next year's outlook.
iPhone maker Apple may just have taken the first real step on its road to catching up with the likes of Google, Meta, Amazon, as well as Microsoft in the race for AI supremacy. Well, Apple, as you might have noticed, has been lagging behind here. Picture this. Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, chose optimization over innovation. It worked to the extent that it was Tim Cook who turned Apple into a $4 trillion company only behind Nvidia. But in the process, this is something that happened. First up, Siri, the OG of artificial intelligence, stagnated. Once a pioneering voice assistant, Siri has fallen behind competitors like Google Assistant as well as ChatGPT in terms of conversational abilities and accuracy. Now, Apple's strong commitment to user privacy means most data is processed on the device itself. It limits its ability to use massive cloud-based data sets and feedback loops that competitors leverage to rapidly train and improve their own AI models. Now, key generative AI features and a revamped Siri have faced repeated delays, with some major updates now promised only for next year, that's 2026. Now, Apple reportedly lags in developing AI chips for data centers and does not operate enough large-scale data centers compared to its rivals, sometimes relying on Google's infrastructure for AI training. Now, that makes the onboarding of AI veteran Amar Subramanya all the more relevant for Apple at this precarious time. On the 1st of December, Apple announced that Indian-origin AI veteran Amar Subramanya will be taking over the role of Vice President for Artificial Intelligence. Now, Subramanian's arrival is a big win for Apple considering his past experience in the world of AI. Now, this may not be the end of Apple's troubles, but it sure points towards a course correction. Now, to study this development, we are this morning joined by Barnik Chitran Metra. Barnik, thank you so much for being here with us on the AI Report. First up, help us understand, why has Apple lagged behind? Why was the OG of AI by way of Siri lagging behind so massively when it comes to AI?
So there are many reasons. I think you have to go back probably a decade to the struggles of Apple. Apple in the last decade has actually spent $10 billion plus on AI on something called Project Titan, which was the smart Apple car. In fact, a lot of the focus of Apple in the years between 2015 to 2020 was on Project Titan, building the Apple car, which, by the way, got killed right around the pandemic. And that's where a lot of other companies were investing in large language models and the transformer architecture. Apple actually lost its, I would say, head start. Secondly, if you look at the Siri architecture, Siri is a smart assistant. I would not go as far to call it an AI because it's a very command and control and task-oriented architecture.
Right.
In the modern world, right, of generative AI and the GPT architecture, in fact, Siri, if any, is only dumb. In fact, Apple for the last 3 years has tried to make Siri more intelligent, integrating it with LLMs or trying to build their own small and large language models. I think the project is codenamed Ajax or AX, but it suffered from a lot of hallucination and a lot of errors, which is why the features have got delayed indefinitely. Again, this comes back to the way Apple operates. Apple is built for optimization. Apple is built for efficiencies. Apple is not built for cross-function collaboration and collaborative R&D, which is the foundation for AI.
All right, so where does the story go from here, Barnik? Help us unpack that as well. Because number one, of course, you're mentioning the most important being culture. And it seems that perhaps the culture, even with the leadership changes, first by bringing in a new AI vice president and then Tim Cook's own replacement potentially next year, could take care of one part of the culture, at least the speaking, the language of innovation could potentially come through. But the second is that it doesn't potentially have the right engineers and the right staffing to be able to build large AI models at scale, unlike its rivals.
So I think the issue fundamentally is a talent issue and a quality of talent issue. I think Project Titan has given Apple probably thousands of engineers who are well versed in AI, but they are not deep AI researchers. So again, the hiring of the new AI gentleman, Mr. Subramanya, is hopeful to plug some of the gaps. Let's step back and look at what their announced strategy for AI is right now. I think there are two key pillars which they've been talking about, which are important pillars. One is what's called the Apple chip in the data center, or the ACDC project, right? Where Apple, buoyed by the success of the M series chips, is now actually building its own silicon to go into data centers. Now, the bet they have is that if they control their own silicon hardware, that they will be able to actually control inference on these chips, and that will make it more efficient than buying chips from Nvidia. The second bet they are making is, by the way, one of the most innovative projects Apple has done in a while is the home robotics project. I think there are two projects there. There is a J495 and there's a J590, where they are building robotic assistants and robotic touchscreens, right, to get into the space of physical AI. I think with the coming in of Mr. Subramanya, it is expected that Apple is going to do far more pivots. One expected pivot is to move away from their on-device private cloud infrastructure to more hybrid cloud infrastructure model. Secondly, I think there will be more investments in fundamental reasoning models, right? Whether they be large language models or the next version of the GPT infrastructure. And the third thing which Apple has missed out is actually creating more developer tools for AI, so that more invisible AI apps can run on Apple. Remember, Apple today has more than 2 billion users who are captive on the Apple ecosystem, who are actually now dependent on third-party prompt-oriented AIs, which by definition are not that private, right? And it fundamentally unveils. So 3-4 changes expected. Will this happen overnight? I would suspect not. I think there's a big change needed in personnel. There's a big change needed in culture. So a lot of softer obstacles to climb, right?
So are there risks involved in that sort of pivot strategy as well? Because right now the core focus, in fact the core product of Apple happens to be the devices, the iPhones, the Apple Watch, the iPad, the Mac. Is there a risk, inherent risk in making a massive pivot? Because you may want to focus on the next big thing. It could come at the cost of ignoring your already large business.
A little bit of yes and no. I'll tell you why. Because see, AI also transcends the physical world as well as the software world. I think so. The home robotics project, which is the physical AI project, is actually the most important project from a future devices point of view. Now, I would argue that Apple is not doing enough. In fact, if you look at even the hardware, I think there are several competitors who are generations ahead in terms of the fold phone, in terms of newer form factors. So I think there is far more catching up to do even on the physical or the device side, which is why the home robotics project will catch up. I think in general, the biggest risk is that Apple doesn't do enough fast enough, right? That is the biggest risk to the strategy, because Apple, the legacy of the last 12, 15 years under Tim Cook's legacy has been one of conservatism, it has been one of frugalism, is one of measured bets, right? And not where people make bets ahead of the curve, right? So I think the biggest risk for Apple is not to make these investments in either physical AI or the software AI fast enough to catch up with the competition. Because if you remember, OpenAI is also now working on an AI phone, right? They've hired actually John Hives who's the original designer of the iPhone. And if Apple doesn't get its act together in AI in general, which is both software, platform, cloud, and hardware, it's very likely that even in the hardware, they will be left behind in the next 5 to 7 years.
All right, so of course that risk of getting left behind continues to loom over Apple. But for now, let's leave it at that. Barnik, thank you so much for your time this morning, for really unpacking where Apple is at the moment and where it is headed from here. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome back. A big story coming this week from China. Now remember, while Nvidia's Blackwell and Vera Rubin series for AI data centers and the GeForce RTX 4090 chips may still be elusive for Chinese consumers, their onshore investor frenzy for AI chips has definitely intensified. I'm talking about the initial public offering of Beijing-based GPU maker Moore Threads, which has drawn more than 4,000 times subscription from retail investors this week. Now, this red-hot demand from Moore Threads highlights China's determination to build homegrown alternatives to Nvidia's chips and is expected to accelerate listing plans for other Chinese domestic GPU developers, all the way from Meta X to Byron Technology. Moore Threads opened lottery-style subscriptions on Monday at an IPO price of 114.28 yuan, which is around $16. Doesn't sound too much, right? But wait for the real kicker. Now, online orders from retail investors exceeded the number of shares on offer by more than 4,000 times, resulting in a final allotment rate of just 0.036%, according to the company filing, which came on Wednesday. Now, Moore Threads raised about 8 billion yuan, that's about $1 billion, valuing the company at 53.7 billion yuan, that's just a little short of $8 billion. Now, its debut date has yet to be finalized, but Chinese authorities have been guiding private capital towards supporting the country's drive for tech self-sufficiency, particularly in semiconductors and GPUs. Now, Moore Threads was founded in 2020 by a James Zhang Jingzong, a former Nvidia vice president and head of its China operations, who spent 14 years at the US chip giant before striking out on his own back in his own home country of China. Now, joining us to unpack what's going on with the Chinese IPO boom, especially when it comes to technology, and how does India really stack up in that AI race today, is none other than Gaurang Shah. Mr. Shah, good morning and pleasure having you here with us on News 9. Now, obviously, this news making a lot of hype in China and amid Asian investors. It seems that China is trying to very hard to catch up with its US Magnificent Seven counterparts. How are you reading this play?
There's been a race which is not going to end as far as the technology related boom is concerned. But let me also say that along with this boom, there is also fear of a bust that may happen, especially in the US, the way we've been reading. So it's no surprise, Karthik, US and China have always been at each other when it comes to one step up with respect to any kind of, whether it is technology or anything else. So it's not surprising that here also you are seeing an elevated competition given from China to US tech giants, especially companies like Nvidia, etc. What remains to be seen, Karthik, is how successful this story is, right? Because eventually expectations do run ahead of what companies can deliver. And that's exactly the fragmented, views that people are having with respect to what US is doing. So while everything is well right now, one needs to be careful as to what is going to be the scale of growth for these companies. One should not expect too much and not run into it with great expectation.
All right, but I want to spend a minute or so on something that you just mentioned about any story that comes with a boom also has this fear of a bust. And I'm talking about the theory of AI being a big bubble and only becoming bigger with every passing day. Which side of the pendulum are you at? Do you think AI is already in bubble territory, or do you think it's getting there?
Well, so if you ask me as far as India is concerned, Karthik, I think we are at a very nascent stage. We had to scale up to a great extent. And I think post the second quarter numbers, most of the management who came and gave out verbatim regarding their growth did some part of that verbatim was focused with AI and what are they planning to do. With respect to US and China, I think they are possibly a couple of steps ahead of what we are doing. But again, that's where the fear comes in, Karthik, because we've already saw the kind of correction some of the tech-related giants listed in the US stock exchanges. And what happened after that. Despite of the stellar number, I think some of the companies did correct over there post the numbers because of the fear. And that's what it is. The case of or the case of fear of missing out, or the case of expecting too much before what the companies can deliver. So I think we are at a very nascent stage. I don't think as of now, whatever lies in front of me, if I have to make a decisive comment, I don't think we need to fear too much as far as the Indian tech companies are concerned. When it comes to China or US, I think you have reason to worry.
Coming specifically to China, do you think at a policy level, perhaps the US administration right now under President Donald Trump is being a little short-sighted in preventing Nvidia from exporting those Blackwell chips to China? Because here we have an example of a homegrown Chinese company which is building its own GPUs, which could potentially, or not, but potentially compete with Nvidia. And this is pretty much a team which belonged to Nvidia, which is now making its own chips.
You can't have restrictions, Karthik. When you are in a competitive field, you have to reach out to the world, right? And eventually, if you do end up putting firewalls or any kind of restrictions or barriers, it is going to boomerang on yourself and that particular company. Now, when it comes to China, to answer your question, I have this long-standing feeling that how much do I trust of what comes out from China? As we all know, it's a closed guarded economy. People don't have access to a lot of things that you and me have access to. And how much of credible or valid are the kind of news flows that are coming? How much is actually on the ground, and how much of it is buttered by the by the government over there or the administration over there? So that's a big question. And we all know, last couple of years back, the situation in China as far as real estate is concerned. I think 3 days back, we had one more, it was too big to fall kind of a company again in China in the real estate. I forget the name, hitting the news for all the wrong reasons. So, just let's wait and watch. I think eventually we need to know the numbers and the growth prospects. If that comes to expected lines, it is good enough. If it doesn't, then like I said, frothy valuations will find its position downwards.
All right. And this specific company, Moore Threads, a 4,000x subscription, does that seem normal?
So while the numbers may be true, I don't know. I mean, I don't have valid data to counter that. But like I said, sustainability, Karthik, is something that needs to be there, right? If sustainability is not there with the numbers, whether it is, subscriber base, or whether it is footfalls or eyeballs or views or whatever it is, they need to sustain at a higher level and scale it upwards, right? If you want to grow further.
All right. Well, let's leave it at that. Gaurang Shah, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure having you join us here on News 9, and always great listening to your views here.
Thank you, Karthik. All the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Coming up on the other side, McKinsey estimates that generative AI could boost operating profits in the fashion, apparel, and luxury sectors by up to, hold your thought, $275 billion by the year 2028. Well, News 9's Amit Ranjan Kumar will explore the 10 use cases of AI in the global fashion industry, which is making use to cut costs, increase personalization, and operate more sustainably, all on the back of artificial intelligence. Now, does that mean that huge job losses in the fashion industry are to follow?
industry has always grappled, even struggled with creative bottlenecks, inefficient supply chains, and ever-rising consumer expectations. Looking hard for solutions, here are 10 use cases of artificial intelligence the global fashion industry is making use of to cut costs, increase personalization, and operate more sustainably. 1. AI-powered circular economy in fashion. Modern resale and second-hand fashion platforms now rely on AI for garment wear and tear level detection, automated categorization, and dynamic pricing algorithms. Here's an example. RealReal Inc. is an online retailer and supplier of consumer products. Its AI tools, Shield and Vision, are used to identify fake items. Shield prioritizes which items need human review, while Vision uses image recognition to flag potentially fake products. These tools, trained on companies' extensive product database, complement human authenticators and have helped identify as much as 200,000 fakes since 2011. AI has been around for a while. 2. AI-generated virtual influencers. These are now essential tools in fashion marketing and digital storytelling. Brands are creating custom avatars to represent niche customer personas. Powered by LLMs and 3D modeling, these digital personas are built using generative AI and scripted with language models to engage authentically in comments, captions, and DMs. And mind you, these avatars are A/B tested, which is a method of comparing two versions of a piece of content, such as an ad, email, or landing page, to see which platform performs better. They are tested across TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. Here's a real-life example. Lil Miquela is a virtual influencer created by tech startup Brud. Blending fiction and reality, Lil Miquela has worked with top fashion brands, prominent ones being Prada and Calvin Klein. It has starred in ad campaigns and even released its own music. Her rise highlights how virtual identities are reshaping celebrity culture and marketing, especially in the context of metaverse and digital-first engagements. With rising social expectations, brands are using AI to audit inclusivity across visual and written content. Image analysis, that is, computer vision models analyze skin tones, body shapes, ages, and facial features in marketing visuals to quantify demographic representation. Natural language processing is a branch of artificial intelligence that enables computers to understand, interpret, and manipulate human languages. NLP tools assess product descriptions and ads for gender-coded language or cultural insensitivity, flagging bias areas for improvement. Here's an example. Microsoft Advertising has expanded its integration with Shutterstock to enable all advertisers to access over 360 million high-quality and royalty-free images directly within the platform. A new feature is People Filters, which enables users to quickly find images based on attributes such as gender, ethnicity, age, and group size. Most companies in the fashion sector rely on clothing designs made manually. AI-enabled tools create clothing designs using data such as images from brands' previous offerings or other designers, customer preferences, and current fashion trends. Here's the kicker. There's a real chance of a computer-generated catwalk becoming as interesting and popular as real catwalks with human models in the not-too-distant future. The German fashion platform Zalando and Google created Project Muse, which uses machine learning to create fashion designs. The model gathers data regarding customers' favorite textures, colors, and style preferences by asking a series of questions to create clothing designs. The project created 40,424 fashion designs within the first month. As things stand now, the apparel and manufacturing sector largely relies on manual production processes with questionable working conditions for workers. Robotics is helping automate tasks that are risky or prone to error in manufacturing facilities, thereby decreasing the workload and improving worker safety and productivity. Subo is advancing garment manufacturing by automating the sewing process. Their approach involves temporarily stiffening fabrics with a water-soluble polymer to enable standard industrial robots to handle the shoe materials. Number 6. Fashion trends forecasting. AI is used to accurately predict fashion trends using different types of data. More accurate predictions can lead to leaner production and distribution cycles, resulting in less waste. Euritech is a Paris-based fashion technology company specializing in AI-driven trend forecasting and demand prediction. The company utilizes advanced AI to analyze over 3 million social media images daily, translating real-world visuals into insights for fashion and sportswear brands. Their platform detects more than 2,000 fashion attributes, including prints, color, fabrics, and specific product details to quantify and predict consumer demand. How about that? Number 7. Computer vision systems play a key role in automating critical retail operations, including inventory management and cashierless stores. Little wonder then that brands like H&M refer to AI not as artificial intelligence, but as amplified intelligence. Number 8. Mirror, mirror on the wall moment for customers anywhere. Brands can now create experiences that cater to individual preferences while fostering customer engagement and loyalty. Virtual try-on technology uses augmented reality to let customers digitally try on clothes, makeup, and related products. It replicates the in-store fitting experience, helping shoppers visualize items, make informed decisions, and experience a more engaging shopping experience. What does this do? It reduces return rates and enhances brand loyalty. Ralph Lauren has launched Ask Ralph, an AI-powered shopping tool developed with Microsoft on the Azure OpenAI platform. Customers can ask questions like, what should I wear to the concert, and receive complete, shoppable looks that can define and refine the purchase directly. Number 9. By integrating AI into their operations, fashion brands can achieve sustainability through smarter resource use, optimized supply chains, and waste reduction in manufacturing. And number 10, emotion AI. Yes, that's how far AI has gone. This is being applied to enhance emotional personalization in shopping. AI detects micro expressions or voice tones with consent, of course, to interpret emotional states such as excitement, confusion, or frustration. Based on detected emotions, AI recommends fashion pieces, for example, bold colors when happy, cozy styles when anxious, using an AI-trained psychological style mapping. Some brands use AI to analyze types or spoken inputs during chatbot conversations to infer moods and style preferences. Just how about that? You're not just being watched by fashion brands, you're even being measured. Of course, just now with your permission.
All right, and with that, we come to an end of this edition of the AI Report. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back next week with more stories on disruptions as well as opportunities being created by artificial intelligence. You're watching News 9.